It's us.
Hi, us.
Hey. How's it going, Amanda?
It's great, Ben. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking.
It's thrilling to hear.
Yeah, here we are for another passion project.
Here we are.
And it's your passion project.
It is my passion project. Thanks, everybody, for coming out to hear about my passion. You may live to regret this. We'll see.
That's exciting. I didn't know you had passions besides theater.
Ben.
And me.
Yeah. And our dog. And our family.
But you do.
I do. Yeah.
Well, what is it?
Okay.
What are you passionate about?
So here's the thing. Here's the challenge I faced, Ben. My immediate thought when we agreed to do the passion project, my immediate thought was my passion is my job. My passion is teaching.
Your
Outside of the
J.O.B. job.
theater, my J.O.B., yes, which ends up being very much a passion project for me. But I know the rules are for passion project, it's not something related to theater. It has to be something outside the frame of that, something that we as an ensemble like outside of that, right?
Right.
And because I'm a theater teacher, theater education is my work.
So you're cheating a little bit.
Well, I'm going to do a workaround, Ben. Here's how I'm going to do it.
Oh, interesting.
I deeply love my job, and I'll be honest in saying that I'm new to it. This is my 5th year of teaching, which means that I've had 3.5 years of normal teaching, and by the time this school year is over, 1.5 years of pandemic teaching, which I think we can all agree is a slightly different animal, although many of the skills are certainly transferable. And here is one of the things that I find most compelling, most important, and most rewarding about my work with students. And the students teach me, as I suppose any teacher will tell you, more than I teach them a large majority of the time about these kinds of things. But one of the things that I think is central to good theater education is teaching students what the mind-body connection looks like. What does it mean when our minds and our bodies are connected in a way that we are aware of? Thanks, Nicole. Oh gosh, it would take one to know one in that case.
Sorry to interrupt, but since we're stopped for a minute, paused for a minute,
Yeah.
I would like to point out
Yeah.
that when you first started teaching, like before you started your first year of this, you told me that you thought you were going to dislike it.
I did not think I would like teaching.
And I said, what did I say?
You said it would change my life.
I said you would love it and you'd be really excellent at it and it would become a passion and that someday we would do a passion project during a pandemic about it. So I called all of that.
You did call all of it. I do have to say, I'm going to rat you out, Ben TG, since you said this. So for years, Ben TG, for those of you who don't know him, is now a veteran. He has been teaching for many years now. And I will say his commitment to his students is unparalleled. And many times it is, Kathy, you're so right.
Very true.
You're so right. I bet you're a magnificent teacher, Kathy. Ben TG on opening night, I'm just going to say it, Ben. I'm sorry. I'm telling the world.
What?
Sometimes he gets weepy for his students. He gets a little nervous for them.
No.
On opening night.
No.
And I have always, I'm sorry, I know this, I'm a meanie. I'm a bully. I've always made fun of him for it. I've always been like, okay, calm down. And then he said, just wait. He always said, you wait. Someday if you teach, you will get it. It will finally become clear to you. And my first opening night, the first year I was teaching, I turned to Ben and dissolved into a weeping mess and said, I'm so nervous for them. I'm so nervous. And he was like, I don't want to say I told you so, but
yeah, I've been doing theater a long, long, long time. And by far the most nervous I ever get is when I'm watching my students on stage.
It is very
I'm
nerve-wracking.
never even close to as nervous when I'm on stage as I am when I'm watching my kids on stage.
Could not be more accurate.
So nerve-wracking.
There's nothing more terrifying.
I want them to do so well, and
yes.
and I'm just like rooting for them so hard, and it's so scary.
And it's not even, the thing for me is, I trust my students more than I trust myself very often. I will know they're going to nail it. The fear is not the performance.
No.
The fear is, it's not even fear. It's just like deep empathy, like what they're experiencing backstage, and like wanting them to walk out there and like know the reward of it.
Wanting them to, you want it to be a good experience. So you're like nervous that it won't, you're like, please let it be a good experience for them.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I want them to know, so many of them come to this work. I teach at the college level. I teach at Normandale Community College in Bloomington, Minnesota. And so most of them come to me having either a deep appreciation, passion, or love for theater making, which is lifelong for many of them. They've known they wanted to be artists since they were little kids, or they're teachers in training, or they're people who want to have a deepened understanding of strong and effective communication skills. And so, it's kind of a mix. I get pre-nursing students, I get tech students, I get, engineering students, pre-biology, education majors, you name it. So there's that side of the work that I do in communication training, and then the theater kids who come to me and are just so deeply invested in it. And they are not only in the classroom with our faculty, but they're also on stage with us and in rehearsal very often 4 hours a night, 6 days a week for most of the school year. So it's a fairly enormous time commitment. And yeah, I know that they've already been bitten by the theater bug when we get them, but I want them to deeply feel the rewards of that commitment and that kind of dedication. One of the things that we really focus on as a faculty in our classrooms, and I don't have any of my colleagues here, but I don't think they would mind my saying this, is this, as I mentioned, the mind-body connection. Human beings are designed to have awareness, to have sensitivity about the ways in which their body drives and is connected to their thoughts, their heart, their health, their mental clarity, their well-being, their stress management, all kinds of things. And so I decided that rather than just blather on about it, I would ask two of our very own New Prague alum, who are now students in our program at Normandale Community College, to come on and chat with me. I'm going to interview them and ask them a few questions about their experience with mindfulness. And when we're done with that interview, I am going to walk you through an exercise that I would take my students through in an effort to connect them, to connect their minds and their bodies in their work. And I will get into that in a little more detail as we go. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming a native son and native daughter of New Prague, Minnesota, Andrew Schreiber and Amy Ilka. Hi, guys.
Oh.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Hey,
happy to be here.
Oh, you guys are sweet. Can you do me a favor? Can you just, we'll start with Amy, then Andrew. Just give us a little intro, like how are you involved at Normandale? What's your sort of program of study, etc.?
Yeah, so I am a theater major at Normandale, and that's kind of the path I've been taking, doing some theater classes, auditioning for shows and such like that. But I haven't really been able to be a part of anything because of the pandemic and things getting canceled. So yeah.
Okay, dang it, Amy. But also involved in shows and all kinds of stuff and taken a bunch of classes in the theater department, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Andrew, who are you?
Oh, what a question. I'm Andrew Schreiber. I've been at Normandale this will be my second year, third semester. I started out taking a bunch of theater classes because I transferred from my 4-year school, which was not a fit. And my first show at Normandale was Colossal, which was a lot of fun. If you guys got a chance to see that, it was a great show. And yeah, and I've been involved with Normandale theater shows as much as I can be in the pandemic. And I was a part of the Hamlet cast, which unfortunately we had to cancel due to health concerns, but it was still a great experience.
Okay, great. Okay, so you guys, let's just get right into it. We talked a little bit before this about kind of what I'm trying to connect here today. The idea that mindfulness is a valuable tool to develop as a human being, not just as a theater artist. But let's just kind of start with some of the sort of circumstances around which we might be thinking about this. So we're in this Zoom world, right? The world is all Zooming these days, in your lives as well as in mine, I know. Can you talk about how the idea of the Zoom classroom or the online classroom, maybe you're using different tools than Zoom in some of your classes, how is that sort of changing or impacting the way you guys are thinking about or processing your learning?
Amanda, I'm so sorry. I have to go take a quick emergency bathroom visit. I'm very sorry. This is not well timed, but
Go
nature
for it.
calls. So I'll be.
Andrew, in the age of Zoom, we all get it. Okay, Amy, you talk. Tell us how
Yeah, so I'll be completely honest. I don't like Zoom. I think it's really distracting. It's far less engaging than an in-person class where you get to, sit in a room with your classmates and, listen to the teacher speak right in front of you. And I find myself laying in my bed often and doing the Zoom classes just from my own room where I'm just like extremely comfortable, almost too comfortable, I
Yeah.
would say, because I can almost just like, oh, I'm not really in class. I'm in my bed. So it doesn't really matter as much, which like goes on to the mindset that, school doesn't really matter anymore and like yada yada yada. So it's just like the Zoom world of things is just, I find it to be far less engaging than in-person classes. And for me, it's just, I know that my brain doesn't really work well with the technology piece of things. And I think that goes to show like how I view technology as kind of more of a distraction rather than like an asset, which partially has to just do with like, my thinking patterns of things, which, I could change, but I like to be in the real world and like, live through the real world. And I just like don't think that Zoom is the right choice for me. For some people, it would be really like helpful, I could think, where they would like, they're busy people and can you go Zoom on the go and sort of things like that. And but I just find it to be really less engaging and kind of distracting. So
That's interesting. A lot of people might say that your generation is pretty obsessed with technology. So it's interesting to hear you talk.
yeah, yeah, I would say so too. I mean, I do find myself on my phone quite a bit
Me too.
because that's just kind of how everyone is nowadays. It's hard to put down. You have a lot of your like social engagement on your phone, social media, apps and things. But it's like as far as school goes, it's hard to differentiate, the school side of things because when you're in school, like on campus, you're not using your computer for class, you're actually in the class.
Hmm.
So it's hard to draw the line of where school comes in and where technology kind of takes a break and goes on the sidelines, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. It's interesting. Some of the things you're talking about are really like connected to what I want to dig into a little bit today, which is this idea of the mind-body connection and how your body participates in your learning.
Mm.
So I've said this a million times, mind body connection today already, and you've heard it a lot in your class work as well. Can you just explain to the audience in your own words what you think of when I say the phrase mind body connection?
Yeah, so I know when we were in when I was in Amanda's acting one class, this is where I first learned about mindfulness and learned to really enjoy it. But what we did was we would all lay on the ground and just relax, I guess, and just take a full body approach to what you are feeling in your own body. So, taking a pause and listening to what your body is telling you. And that could be anything from places you hold a lot of tension. I know a lot of people hold tension in their shoulders and maybe in their hips when they walk and stuff like that. So just like knowing where you hold those places of tension, just like trying to breathe through it and relax. And maybe it could be like some places where you like twitch. I noticed that like my eyes sometimes twitch a lot, and like you can't really
Same.
control twitches, but just like knowing that they're there and that your body does that as maybe something that even though you can't control it, just knowing that it is there, being mindful because it is mindfulness of that, your body is like twitching, weirdly enough. And then like sore spots too is another thing that I would like take into account. If like, your back is sore, your lower back is sore, just like, taking a deep breath and just like knowing that that's there and maybe not like delving too much into it, but just like feeling that your body is feeling that, not thinking like, oh, I wonder why my back is sore. Maybe it's because I'm just walking too much or la da 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 da. You're just like taking it and you're thinking about it and then you just let it go. It's like, it would always be, I remember Amanda would say like, it's like a cloud, like a passing thought. You see it and then you let it go. It's not anything to worry about. You're just breathing and just taking things as they come sort of deal. So
The audience may hear some of these very same phrases today, Emilka. That's great. Hey, Andrew, do you want to add anything to that too? Like what we're talking about, like how in the department you like, I keep saying the phrase mind body connection. Like, what does that mean to you, sort of as you're thinking about your work, at school or as a theater artist? What's the mind body connection if you had to explain it to our audience?
Uh, the mind body connection. My okay. Sorry. I would say my first like actual like delving into that kind of connection was with one of our faculty members, Sean Bird, in a class. I forget the name of it. It's
There's a voice
Voice
in
and
movement.
Movement.
There you go.
Yes,
Yep.
that's what it was. And that was basically the whole class was exploring, your voice, exploring the connection between your mind and your body, and making sure that connection stays there. Because a problem that I have is that I think a lot of us have is that your thoughts just drift away or they shift to something else. Like I need to do this kind of homework to make sure I keep on track. I wonder if I should work out tonight. I need to go grocery shopping. But the challenge of that is just stay present and know entirely what's going on inside your body.
Yeah.
Um,
What's the value in staying present? Like, even for not theater artists, like why would you need that?
well, for one, it helps you pay attention to what's going around you, and especially if it's for like if you're in a meeting or something like that, or if you're just like with your family and friends. It's just the moment is so much better, and we miss a lot of moments because we're not in the present within ourselves and within the people around us. So I think these theater, even though they're theater exercises, they will help you a lot in just regular life. I'm starting to sound like a motivational speaker, but I stand by it.
Well, okay. So then what you guys may or may not sort of realize about yourselves is you have been in practice, in mindfulness practice in your time in the department. So that being the case, my guess is you are starting to develop a sort of habitual awareness of what your body is doing at any given moment, right? I mean, we sort of talked about before you beloved audience joined us, like I find when I'm stressed out and I'm on Zoom all day, my shoulders are like up around my ears, and like that mindfulness practice teaches us to go, oh, I'm all locked up here, I'm going to relax out of that, right? So how have you noticed that a heightened awareness of that connection a heightened awareness of how to bring yourself into a mindful space has impacted your learning as students, or even impacted your walk through the world, I guess? It's a
Yeah,
big
I can
question.
start
It's
with
a
this
big one.
one. So I find that I am a very fidgety person. I like, play with my hands a lot. If I'm like wearing rings, I'll fidget with those, or like uh, nervous knee, the fidgeting with the knee. I get that a lot, and I think this has impacted my learning, just to know that like I do these things as like sort of to keep my mind and my body just like, oh yes, I am a person. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
I am in my own body. Like I do exist.
That's
That
wonderful.
sounds so funny, but it's true. It's like, I fidget and I'm like, I have hands. I have hands here, and that I am a person, and I have knees and that do fidget. And so it just like keeps me, even though that I do those things, that it keeps me in my own body and in my own mind. And that's sort of a little twist on mindfulness, I think, because it's like, mindfulness, when you're just like doing it, when you're like laying down and being mindful of the things that you do, you don't necessarily have to stop doing those things. If they're, maybe on the negative side, you can like work around it. But if it's something like, that you do, like hand sort of fidgeting like this, if it's not a negative thing, I don't see, why you need to stop doing it if it's like helping you in your own body, sort of thing. So mindfulness can be interpreted, different ways for different people, I think, which is something that's just wonderful about it. So
I love that. You're absolutely right. We're going to talk in a little bit about how mindfulness impacts, or how it could be useful for different populations of people in different ways. So definitely. How about you, Andrew?
Yeah, a lot like you, when I get nervous, my shoulders just rise up to my ears.
Oh,
And so constantly throughout the day, I was like, nope, bring them down, drop them. And also, another thing that mindfulness reminds me is breathing. Breathing is so important, obviously, but especially
that's
when you're in class or presenting, performing, whatever you do, it's just important to take a breath. And that's something that mindfulness has taught me, because even when, like right now, I need to take a breath.
uh-huh.
But especially when I'm sitting through a lecture, and I also fidget, like Amy said, like this, I especially get the bouncy knees. I have very bouncy knees, and it's actually gotten so bad that people next to me who don't know me, like, will look at me and be like, "Dude, stop bouncing your knee." So
You
I never thought about it like that.
do.
I should just fidget more. Screw going for runs. I should just
Just
fidget more.
love fidgeting. I'm super glad you brought up the breathing. Breathing, creating clear pathways for oxygen in your system, ends up being an immense value added, um, for anyone, right? Like it impacts all kinds of systems for us, both emotional and mental as well as physical. So super important thing. And Andrew's right. It does sound very simple when we talk about how important breathing is. Like he says, of course, but also we create all kinds of just wild disconnects for our breathing. We make it actually quite hard to breathe sometimes. And as you know, oxygen is necessary for proper functioning of our systems and for mental clarity. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Is there anything else you guys want to add about sort of in this time? It feels like such an important moment for us, right? Particularly for you as students, to be thinking about kind of what mind-body connection means as your education happens, both this semester and into next semester, when we're back into online learning for hopefully a final time, a final semester. So, yeah. Um, yeah, anything else you sort of want our audience to know about what your experience is as students that way?
I'll go. Amy, you've been kind of taking the charge in this
yeah,
one.
go ahead.
Um, something that I've been experiencing with online learning is that you're entirely dependent on yourself to pay attention. There's
Uh-huh.
not a teacher or like the pressures like, oh, if I drift off, they're going to see that I'm not paying attention. You know, it's entirely on you to stay focused and stay engaged. And I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all. I have a really hard time doing this, especially lately. I have had a
Yeah.
lot of trouble paying attention, staying focused, especially as the holidays roll around and the semester's starting to wrap up. But it's just mindfulness has helped me a lot. I haven't always been successful, but when I do need to be, mindfulness does help, and um, just try to cancel everything out. And weird as it sounds, I like to stand when I'm in when I'm in class Zoom meetings, especially ones I need to pay attention to. Because something about sitting just kind of disconnects me from my body, at least for me. So I enjoy standing, and that kind of gets me more engaged. So that's
Yep.
kind of what I've learned.
I'm with you. Standing helps
Yeah.
me connect more too. Sometimes lying
Yeah,
down.
I kind of touched on that, Andrew, when you took your bathroom break. I tend to just lay down when I'm in my Zoom class because I'll be honest, my only Zoom class that I have like on Zoom is my Spanish class, and it's at 10 a.m. And while that might not sound so early to some people, I am so bad at getting up for it. So I just find myself just getting up like 5 minutes before the class starts just to like get my computer open and get set, and I just lay in my bed and I'm on class, and sometimes I'll be like drifting off and like really close to falling back asleep. And when I was in high school, I'll be honest, there was a couple teachers would see me doing that and they'd be going, "Hey, Ilka, don't be falling asleep." And I would just be like, "Oh yes, sorry, can't be falling asleep." But now I'm just like, you know what? There's no one to tell me that I can't fall asleep. So sometimes I'm just like, I'll do it, which is so bad because as Andrew was saying, it's like, you're the only person who is accountable for yourself in these Zoom classes and with this online learning. And it's so difficult when we're in the, midst of a pandemic to make sure that you're keeping yourself accountable and making sure that you're getting in your assignments and things on time because, there seems to be so much more bigger problems. But, again, being mindful, as we've said multiple times, just knowing that you have things to do and it's okay, and taking that in, just taking a breath and moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I think so. What you say is so human. Like, it's okay for us all to say it's super hard to stay focused. It's hard to stay awake. It's hard to keep myself zen. So I'm in this present moment, right? I'm not focused on all the millions of things that I have to do the rest of the day or this week or whatever. And it's a practice. So the mindfulness work that we do in school is not just a one and done, like I will do with you today, friends. But it is over time sort of figuring out how to let your body relax while your brain stays sharp. Which is, as these two students can tell you, like kind of a lifelong journey. It's an endless educational effort. It requires giving yourself grace and doing it over and over and over. So you get to a space where those two things are possible. My brain is sharp and my body is relaxed. Friends, Amy, Andrew, I just want to thank you both so much. I'm going to walk these good people through a mindfulness exercise right now. It's about to get real weird and hippy dippy in here.
Heck
Um,
yeah.
but thank
Sorry
you
for
for
the
your
voice crack.
time.
Apparently, I'm still going through puberty.
Hey, New Prague is proud of you. New Prague represent. Um,
Woo-hoo.
appreciate you both. Hope you stick around for the mindfulness work.
Yeah.
But I'll see you both very soon. I adore you. Hang in there. The semester's almost done. You got this.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you
being
for
here.
having us.
You bet. See you soon, okay? Okay, friends. So, this is what I do. I actually think I don't want to sound. I feel humbled by my students all the time, so I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I do think I have a truly glorious job. And it is very much a passion project of mine. And I believe very strongly that helping human beings connect their mind, their emotions, and their body together creates not only better communicators, but um, better human beings. So I'm going to talk to you just for a minute about what I think the benefits are of a mindfulness practice, and then I'm going to walk you through an extended mindfulness exercise. So first, the benefits. As Amy and Andrew have kind of touched on already, one of the sort of substantial benefits of mindfulness work is stress reduction. It very often feels we all have different sort of different practices in our own life for stress reduction. For me, mindfulness weighs heavily in there. In my own spiritual tradition, prayer is a substantial piece of that. I seek inner peace. I seek calm through prayer very often, and mindfulness is reflective of that in some ways. It is certainly not a replacement, but it is also, I believe, a spiritual practice. And all of you have all kinds of different ways of approaching stress reduction and peace in your lives. But I will tell you that in the work I'm about to do with you, what happens is we work very hard to slow and to deepen breathing, which thereby decreases heart rate. It will slow down your body's processes, your systems, allow your muscles to soften. And as your breathing slows, as we know in the theater, the body is capable of tricking the mind. The more your body is rested and relaxed, the more your mind is convinced that you are calm, which can be a very useful tool for anyone in any field or any scenario. Also, what we know about this kind of stress reduction is that it supports adaptive response and it increases self-reliance on outcomes. So what that means is essentially it allows your system to stay calm and centered and for your senses to take in all of your surroundings so that you're able psychologically to approach your surroundings and whatever circumstances come your way with a greater sense of calm and flexibility. It increases a sense of self-reliance. Nora, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being here. It also, it will lessen this decreased stress lessens avoidance behaviors. So those things that you're dreading accomplishing for the day, things that seem insurmountable or like mountains, are now easier to face. They're because we've figured out what our surroundings are. We have control of our surroundings and our physical body, and our minds, and so those kind of things feel easier to tackle. And as I mentioned, relaxation is a huge one, in part because through mindfulness, there are opened pathways for oxygen to travel through your system. And so as oxygen moves more freely, we know that we have greater muscle function, we have greater mental clarity, so your system is optimized in a way that it might not have been before that. It also creates in human beings feelings of focus and connectedness. And so not only are we aware of our own systems, but we are aware of the fact that there are people who are experiencing this with us, who are out in the world who are having similar experiences and processes. And so to connect ourselves to the greater humanity is never a bad thing. Okay, are you ready? What time is it, Ben, TG? Okay, I'm going to walk you through this and it's going to take probably 20-25 minutes. If you can, you should get all the water you need. If there's a space that you can lie down on the floor around you and still be able to hear my voice, you certainly don't in any way need to be able to see me. This is going to feel very hippy-dippy. for those of you who've never done it before. And I'll tell you the reason why is largely cultural. In this country, and in fact, in a lot of countries, we aren't taught to take stock in physical peace. We aren't taught to be aware of our bodies, particularly in education, and particularly right now for students, teachers, even for people who are working in business, people who work for corporations, lawyers, advisors, people who work in finance, you name it, even people in the medical profession, parents. All of you are spending your days right now largely connected to your screen, and largely there is this idea that is reinforced for you in that process that the only thing that matters is happening all right here. As long as you look good from here up, you are looking into the camera, you're communicating, then your brain is the only thing we need to worry about right now. But in fact, connecting to your body means that your brain functions more effectively. Also, we are taught that to ignore our bodies makes us in some ways more attractive. When you're taught to suck your stomach in and walk around with your stomach flat, making sure that you have limited access to air, or that you're shallow breathing from your chest, all of those things are decreasing muscle capacity, making you dumber, and making you more sluggish. Also the ways in which we're taught to socialize in spaces, that your body cannot move freely, that you shouldn't let your body operate in the way it is very specifically and uniquely designed. Those things can cause major systemic problems for us. And those problems go beyond anxiety, depression, and stress. They can get into very serious physical problems, especially for people later in life. So it may sound hippy dippy, but there are endless studies from sound medical and scientific sources that I'm happy to send along if you need them, that support the idea that this work is very physically, cognitively, and psychologically valuable. Okay, so if you can't lie on your back, or aren't comfortable lying on your back in the space around you, I would suggest to you that you stay in whatever seat you're in, wherever you happen to be. Two things: make sure your body's parallel, which means that the left side of your body is the same as the right side of your body. You're not splayed out in different formation, but rather that maybe your arms are down at your sides and that your legs are flat on the ground, if that's comfortable. If not, you can certainly prop your legs so that your knees are bent, if that's more comfortable for your back. If you're in a chair, find the most comfortable space. Don't slouch. Let your arms be down at your sides and both of your feet touching the ground. And you'll want to close your eyes. I'm going to remove some of the sensory tools that you have at your fingertips, just so you can focus a little more. Water's always good, so if you have to pause to take some water, that's great. I would not recommend that you be in a bed, because as Amy mentioned to you, there is a deep psychological connection that we have with our beds. So if you climb into a bed and make yourself overly comfortable, the odds are good that you're going to feel very drowsy as I walk you through this. You may find that your mind wanders immensely, and here is what I'm going to say. Practice grace. Just forgive yourself. Don't worry about your mind drifting. If you notice that your mind is drifting, you're thinking about something else, just bring yourself gently back. The only thing you need to do is be able to hear my voice. You don't need to be able to see me at all. So wherever you happen to be in the room, that's great. If you can close the door or be in a space that gives you some relative quiet, that will be more effective for you than if you're in a loud or crowded space. Being alone or being in a room with only other people who are practicing mindfulness is ideal, but I realize that sometimes that's not possible. So whatever space you can create for yourself is great. Okay, here we go. You want to close your eyes. And first, focus on your breathing. What I mean by that is, don't worry at all about impacting your breathing. You don't have to do anything at all. Just notice breath as it moves. In through your nose, down through your chest, into your body's core, and then with the help of your diaphragm, moves back up and out through your mouth. That's all you have to do. Just pay attention to breath. Don't change your breathing. Sometimes it helps me to internally sort of listen for air. That sound as air comes into your facial mask through your nose. And just let it move down into your system and back up and out through your mouth. It's okay to be comfortable with silence. There will be some moments of silence as I walk you through this exercise. Those are designed to give you space to feel your body, to be in your own system. So now that you're aware of that air moving in and out, breathe with me. On a count of 5, you'll breathe in through your nose on a count of 5, and then out through your mouth on a count of 5. Here we go. Inhale through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more. In through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just let that breathing, that slow, deep breath continue. If you're lying on your back, the odds are good that you're breathing as deeply as you need to. For those of you who are familiar with what babies look like on their backs, that big bellows, that soft belly that moves up and down, is deep centered breathing. Babies don't have social conditioning yet, so they don't know not to breathe deeply through their stomachs. If you're sitting, it's possible that you're bringing that air from your chest and out, which means your breathing is too shallow. See if you can let that slow, deep breath come from your gut. Just let it pull straight from the center of your body. And breathe deep and slow. And now, with an intake of oxygen, I want you to imagine that that air moving into your system comes in with purity, its health, its wellness for your system. And as it leaves your body through your mouth, it takes with it any thoughts that are in your mind, any discomfort that you're feeling physically, any clutter, anxiety that you feel about things that need to be accomplished today or this week. It goes out with an exhale, so that as you breathe that slow, deep air, each breath takes away some of the toxicity in your system, and you're left with a mind that has just a clear, bright, or dark space. So in through your nose, and then as you breathe out, release thoughts that you don't need right now. It's pretty easy to cling to drama. So if you have a lot on your mind, it may surprise you to realize that you don't actually want to get rid of some of those anxiety-inducing thoughts. What I can promise you is, if you let them go, they will just wait for you. They will not go away entirely unless you want them to. So giving yourself the gift of 15 or 20 minutes without those thoughts will replenish you. So deep breath in, and as you breathe out, release a thought or two, and then come back for more. This is one of those moments I told you about. This is one of those moments where you may find your mind drifting, thinking about some of those things I mentioned. It's okay if that's true. I want you to think about those thoughts as little clouds. Just think of them as disconnected from your brain. They float by and you see the thought, you see the idea, and then release it out into the air. Letting those thoughts go one by one. They won't leave forever. Just give your mind that open, bright, or dark space, free from thought. Keep breathing deep and slow as you release your thoughts. And now, let's connect this work to our bodies. So, we'll start at our toes, and I'm going to walk you through your entire system. As I identify sections of your body, you don't need to do anything but be aware of those places. Just focus on each of these sections of your system as I talk about them, and just follow my voice. You don't have to move at all. Sometimes as our body relaxes, you might find that you are elongating, that your muscles relax, and so they elongate. So if you want to readjust, if you want to find a position that's more comfortable as your body adjusts, you can do that, but you are responsible for nothing except to focus on each of the things I'm addressing. So here we go. We're going to start at our toes. Just want you to have awareness of your toes. So see if you can have awareness of each of your toes individually. Not just your toes as a group, but see if without moving them, you can feel each of your toes. Focus on what's touching them. Are your feet bare? Are you wearing socks or even shoes? What do you feel on your toes? And now move up to the balls of your feet and your arches. See if you can just be aware of both of your feet individually. Not everyone has the same physical systems. There are perhaps some of you who do not have full use of some of your limbs. If that's the case, it's not a problem. The idea is still the same. Just lend focus to that space in your body, whatever that means for you. See if you can be aware of your heels. Are you able to feel, are your heels touching the ground in the same way? Are they connecting differently to the floor? Or to your socks or shoes? And now move up to your ankles. Our ankles are hard workers and sometimes unsung heroes. You may find that your feet are straight up in the air, held there by muscular tension. If you're on your back, see if you can relax the muscles around your ankles so that your feet drop to the sides if that's comfortable. If it's not, keep them where they are. You'll feel muscles throughout your leg as you release your ankles. And then you'll move up to your calves and your shins. And this is where I'd like you to start thinking about relaxing those muscles. I find it easiest to think about softening them. To me, picturing allowing those muscles to melt into the floor is often the easiest way to approach that. We carry a lot of tension in our legs. You may have injuries from sports, from other activities, from work in your life that have happened in your legs. So as you go, just be aware of that as well. See if you can let your lower leg relax. Let it melt. Now move up to your knees, which carry a remarkable amount of pressure every day. They are impacted nonstop. Probably many of you have suffered injuries to your knees. Give your knees a moment of rest. See if you can imagine releasing them. Imagine them melting, softening. If there's hardware in your body, in your knees, and some of your other joints, the same concept can be applied. Imagine letting those spaces relax. Let the muscles around them release. And now move up to your thighs. We carry a lot of baggage connected to our thighs, many of us. It is possible that you've spent a lifetime trying to hide your thighs or deal with them or figure out how clothing fits around them, or maybe you've had great pride in them and they've been sources of immense strength and endurance. Be aware that we have emotional connections to our body parts. We feel certain ways about them. In this moment, allow yourself to rest and rejoice in the great muscles that are in your thighs. See if you can imagine relaxing them. Let them sink. Let the muscles go. Maybe your legs fall open. No one can see, not even me, doesn't matter. And now move up to your pelvic area, your hips. We carry an unbelievable amount of stress, amount of anxiety and tension in our pelvic region and our hips, particularly those of you who identify as women. It is possible that as you imagine releasing and softening your pelvic region and your hip area, that you will feel some emotional response to it. Totally, completely normal and biologically sound. I like to imagine unlocking my hips and letting them fall open, each one back toward the ground or back toward my chair, so that it opens up my core, opens up my system. Just imagine them loosening and releasing toward the ground. If you find yourself choked up, it makes perfect sense, and you would be the 8 millionth person who has experienced that feeling. If you are feeling like this might be a little weird for you, remind yourself that that's cultural and not systemic. It is deeply scientifically sound to have a relaxed system. And now move up into your core, up into your stomach, that tenderest and toughest place in your body. I often tell my students there must be some metaphor there. That space where your vital organs are held, where your body's core strength exists, and that place which can be most easily injured and hurt and traumatized. We carry so much baggage in our core, so much discomfort with our stomachs and our waists. with scars and bruising and with all kinds of things that have happened. Some of you may have stretch marks. Some of you may have, pigmentation, all kinds of things that make us feel super uncomfortable with our cores. See if you can imagine releasing all of the muscles in your core, letting all of the organs go soft. Let your rib cage open up. Let both sides fall back toward the floor so you create this open space for air and light to move. Imagine your lower spine sinking back toward the ground or toward your chair, flattening and lengthening. Let your body melt. And now check in once more with your thoughts. If there are thoughts not related to relaxing your system, forgive yourself and just let them float. There is no need to reprimand yourself, no need to be frustrated. You're doing exactly what you should be doing in the exact place you should be. Just focus on my voice and on what it feels like to relax your system. We have different comfort levels with relaxing our muscles. Some of you might find that there's actual discomfort in releasing your muscles, and that's because we tend to have what we call habitual tension. Over time, we teach our muscles to behave in certain ways, and if your muscles are accustomed to being tense, it could be uncomfortable to release them. Nonetheless, it's valiant work and important work. Now check in with your breathing once more. Notice it moving in through your nose and out through your mouth. And wherever it happens to be, see if you can slow it and deepen it one click. Just slow and deepen one little click. And now you'll move up into your chest. Those of us who identify as men particularly carry a great deal of stress, tension, and anxiety in our chests. So if you gents out there, if you feel, you may have noticed that in moments when you feel very emotional, your chest feels very tight or it's harder to breathe. And that is because you have trained yourself and society has trained you to trap tension in your chest. So it is a worthy effort to relax that, and you may feel some emotional response. If you don't, it's also totally normal. Imagine your chest relaxing, softening, and then melting back toward the floor or your chair. Imagine your chest sinking back toward your spine. This should feel not like slumping or contracting, but rather like expanding. Again, let your rib cage fall open. And now you'll move up to your shoulders and your neck. Take note of where your shoulders are right now. Are they up around your ears? Are they down? Let your shoulder blades flatten. Let your shoulders sink down and then back toward the ground or your chair. Let them melt. The same with your neck. Your neck is very often tense. Many of us, particularly in a Zoom era, carry great tension around our necks, around the top of our spine. Imagine those muscles relaxing. They are not responsible for a few minutes for your head, for the rest of your body. Just let those muscles melt. Pay attention to the space behind your neck, if you're seated or if you're lying on the ground. Is there space between the back of your neck and the floor? Can you feel air on the back of your neck? No need to adjust, just take note of it. And now move down to your upper arms. Let those relax, let them sink. They are not responsible for anything else right now. Let them rest. And then down to your elbows. Take note of what your elbows are touching. What can you feel? And then your forearms. Let them go, let them release. Down to your wrists. Your wrists carry so much. Let them go. They are not responsible for your hands. Imagine them softening. And now your hands. Next to your face, your most expressive tool. See if you can feel all of your fingers individually without moving them. Take note of all of your fingers. Can you feel them one by one? Let them soften. Let them relax. What are they touching right now? What can you feel touching your fingers without moving? And now we're back up to the back of your head. Imagine all of the muscles around your scalp, all of the muscles enclosing your head, just relaxing, letting your hair go, just letting go, softening back toward the ground or back away from your face. Around your ears, let them go. Let those muscles soften. Let your ears drop. And now to your most expressive muscles in your face. Perhaps your hardest working, your hardest outward facing muscles. Imagine your forehead releasing, relaxing, not responsible for expression at all. Let your forehead soften. Let it melt. Let it drip back toward the ground, back off your face. And now the muscles around your eyes. Just pay attention to them. Let them soften. Give them a moment off. The muscles around your cheeks and your cheekbones. Let them relax. Let them go slack. Let them soften. The muscles around your jawbone, let them release. We carry enormous tension in our jaws as well. See if you can relax your jawbone. Let it soften. Let it go slack. Let your mouth fall open. If that's comfortable, no one can see you. No one even cares. Everyone's focused on their own. Let the muscles around your mouth go soft. Imagine them responsible for nothing. They're just soft, melting. The muscles around your nose. And now picture with this newly relaxed system, air moving in through your nose so freely. So freely. Picture warm or cool air or water, whatever's the most peaceful for you, moving through your sinuses, through your head, down through your throat into your system, clearing out toxins, allergens, headaches, difficulty, congestion, all of it gone, washed away by clean, clear air or warm water, giving you space to breathe freely. This system that you possess, this remarkable instrument that connects your brain to the world and to other human beings, is the greatest instrument in the history of all of the world. It is responsible for all of the innovation, all of the cities, all of the communities, all of the advances, all of the healing, all of the ease of suffering in all of the world has come about because of an instrument exactly like the one you have at your fingertips right now. Your brain and your heart and your emotions and your psychology live inside that profoundly powerful, important instrument. It is essential that you give it an optimal home. You are capable of all things as a result. Focus for one moment on a goal that you have for the week. Just one thing. It could be something tiny. It could be anything. It could be, I really want to finally grab that thing. It could be, I want to get a promotion. It could be, I want to finally do the dishes. Something tiny, something huge. Anything is great. And picture yourself accomplishing that task. Picture yourself doing it with ease, successfully, with time left over. Now check in with your breathing one more time. Wherever it is, keep it slow and deep. And now, in that slow, deep breathing, in that relaxed space, identify 3 things that you can feel touching your body right now. Don't move. Just what are 3 things you can feel touching you? It could be clothing. It could be your chair, maybe hardwood floor or carpet. It could be your glasses, jewelry, maybe even air from an HVAC system. 3 things that you can feel touching you right now. And now, what is one thing you can smell? One thing you can smell. We don't often take deep breaths. I'm often startled by how little I actually take in during the day with my nose. Sometimes we even train ourselves not to take those breaths. See if you can smell anything. Maybe it's coffee. Maybe it's someone's remnants of lunch. Maybe it's fabric softener or detergent. Maybe it's even dust, someone's perfume, anything. And now, what are 2 things you can hear? 2 things you can hear. Could be tiny sounds, could be something huge. It might be a systemic sound like a machine, or maybe it's a human sound. Take in 2 things you can hear. And now focus on one thing right in this moment that brings you gratitude. What is one thing, tiny or huge, for which in this very moment, right now, you are thankful? Bring yourself back into this space. You don't need to open your eyes or move yet, but just bring yourself into a space where you have awareness of the fact that there are other people participating in this exercise with you. There are other people who are pursuing mindfulness, other people who are in community today, who felt that being in community was important. Other people who are also in possession of that remarkable and powerful instrument, the human body and mind. You've gone through this journey with them as much as with yourselves. And when you're ready, and only when you're ready, open your eyes. Be aware of your space, where you are, what's around you. If you're lying on the ground, I often find that it's useful to roll over into a fetal position first and spend a little bit of time there before I finally find my way back up. It's up to you. There's no timeline, no rush on this. I will tell you that you will likely feel quite groggy. You will feel right now as if you either just woke up from a nap or are about to take one. In a couple of minutes, that grogginess will subside and you will feel clarity. You will feel calm and alert. It does sometimes take a few minutes for that feeling. It's totally normal to feel groggy. If you fell asleep, forgive yourself for that. It happens all the time. There are times when my students snore in the middle of mindfulness. The work that we do here is designed to relax your system entirely, but also to bring awareness to you, to give you an awareness of how your body is functioning on any given moment, and also to bring you awareness of your senses and the world around you. We teach our acting students that to have awareness, to be in control of one's own system is essential to the work that we do as actors. When we are, as actors, aware fully of what's around us, when we are hearing things, when we are smelling them, when we are seeing them, we are knowing what's touching our bodies and how our bodies feel and how they're connected to the world and to the architecture of their space, they're more likely to be able to create a fully realized character that is connected authentically to a space. But what I would say to those of you who are not actors is that this will do the same thing. To have a great awareness of what you can see, smell, feel, touch, hear in your space at all times gives you autonomy. It gives you power and control over your system and allows you to know that you are in control, that you can relax your own body, that you can be in control of your emotional responses, and that you can self-soothe. You can be in a space where if you are feeling anxious, you can bring yourself back into this inner sanctum and find calm again. So that's what I do. That's my passion project. I went a little over here, it looks like, Benj. And for that, I'm sorry. I took you guys into like a 35-minute mindfulness exercise. I do a mindfulness exercise almost every class period, at the start of a class period with my students. And our mindfulness work is like this on day one, and then we take about 5 minutes at the beginning of every class period and do a very consolidated mindfulness exercise. I can tell you, after having done this now and during almost every class period for the last, I would say, 3 years, I am astonished at the difference it makes in my classroom. And so I know and can prove over years of time that this does have an impact on the way that people interact with the world around them. I hope it was restful and rejuvenating for you in some way. And I thank you so much for being a part of my passion project.